Okay, so let's start by talking about these behaviors that we put on our list this morning about like when we're an adult caring for a child, what do we want to happen when the child's behavior is appropriate? What do we want to happen when the child's behavior is inappropriate? Well, if it's appropriate, want them to keep doing it, right? Oh, good, you were nice to your sister. Let's do that every single time now. Or, oh, you hit your sister. Ooh, we don't want that to happen anymore. This is like the basics of behaviors. This is what we want. And traditional parenting or a cultural norm is called behaviorism. And this new lens that Mona Della Hook kind of expands upon in her book that other people have already done before, but she gives us this nice brain body connection lens to see it through, is called positive discipline. In behaviorism, this approach focuses solely on the behaviors of the child and trying to manage them. Like, oh, that was good. Let's do something to keep them doing it. Oftentimes, or if it's bad, let's get them to stop doing it. And the approach generally uses punishment and reward to get it. And so this approach kind of assumes, oh, yeah, the child has control over their behaviors. If they just choose to do it or not do it, then the problem is solved, right? So trying to control those behaviors. From this behaviorist approach, discipline is kind of synonymous with punishment. So even when you hear that word now, like, well, what do you do to discipline your child? You think, what did you do to punish your child, right? So in this sense, from the behaviorist approach, punishment mostly uses fear to try to make a child so scared about doing that behavior again that they're not going to want to do it again. Or on the flip side of this, like, oh, I'm the nice parent. We're just going to offer rewards. We'll do sticker charts. We'll do getting a doll at the end of the week if so and so happens. You know, so this is more of like a doing to approach. I'm trying to control my child's behaviors with these external things. So basically, the adult wants the child to choose the behavior that is desired by the adult. And it doesn't really ask, like, well, how does the child feel about this? Or do they have anything to say about it? Positive discipline, on the other hand, oh, I forgot to explain. This is like an iceberg in water. No, I'm a very good artist here. There is a iceberg, and what is visible above the water is these. I did start it. Thank you. Is these visible behaviors. But what we look at in positive discipline is not just what's above the water, not just these behaviors, but what is the underlying cause of that behavior? Like, why is my child acting like this? Okay. So this is kind of cluing into more like the reason behind it, the root cause. And this assumes also that the child doesn't have control over all those behaviors. Like, what did we learn about today? That those feedback loops between the brain body connection. What is actually happening with this child? And this approach really heavily focuses on relationship between the two that are involved. Discipline means something very different from this approach. Discipline actually comes from the root word disciple, which means to teach or to mentor. You can think about like disciplines in a university, like what discipline are you learning? That sort of thing. And in this sense, the adult wants the child to be able to build skills with their assistance when needed. Okay. And it invites the child's feelings and emotions about what is being asked of them. And this is more of like a working with approach through relationship, through offering relational safety. So here's that drawing again. So positive discipline really looks at the whole child. What are the above the surface behaviors and what's the root cause why? And we learned today that it's those feedback loops, right? Between this neuroception, the brain and the interoception and the external senses taking everything in. That's what's causing a lot of the behaviors. Then you might say, oh, yeah, that's great, but we just can't let the child do anything just because they feel a certain way or, you know, have some emotions. The adult still has to be in charge. It's like, well, absolutely, the adult still has to be in charge. That's why I'm going to show you some of these different parenting styles that exist. These have all been studied with a lot of research, and they found the two most important factors in determining outcomes from parenting styles are level of connection, whether it's low or high. That'd be like you're emotionally unresponsive if it's low, or emotionally responsive if it's high. And then structure, like do you offer limits and boundaries? So either you don't, you're low in instilling limits and boundaries, or you're high, where you are instilling limits and boundaries. And there's all these intersections of them. And specifically, we're going to talk about behaviorism and positive discipline. So in behaviorism, they have a lot of structure, right? This is the boundary, this is the limit. But the way that it's done is very emotionally unresponsive. So it's not really caring about how the child feels about it. You have that limit, but sorry, I don't care how you feel about it. Like, for example, let's say your preteen wants to go to the movie theater with all of the friend group, and it's a rated R movie, but this parent is going to bring this group of kids and they're all going to go see it. All the friends are going, and this child asked their parent, like, Dad, can I go to this movie with my friends? I really want to go. It's going to be so fun, and everyone's going. I can't be left out. And the dad is like, no, you're not going to that movie. The child's like, no, but I want to go. Like, my friends are going to think I'm stupid if I don't go, and I'll be left out. And you know what? I said, you are not going to the movie. That is enough. I don't want to hear another word about it. But dad, blah, blah. It goes on and on. You know what? That's it. No iPad this weekend. And if you keep yapping that mouth, you are not going to ever go to a movie again with your friends. It just like keeps ramping up, emotionally unresponsive. I don't care how you feel about it. You're not going to that movie. Okay. So on the other hand, you have this positive discipline approach, which is more this authoritative parenting style. So let's use the same example. This child tells the dad, I want to go to this movie with my friends. And, oh, you can't go to that movie. That's rated R. Like, that's something for when you're older. But dad, all my friends are going. All my friends are going. I know that's really annoying. I know you really want to go to this movie, but it's just not in line with our family values. Sorry, this is just something you'll do. But dad, everyone's gonna think I'm stupid, and I'm so mad at you. I'm angry. Like, you know what? I remember one time when I was little, and my parents didn't let me go to that sleepover at my best friend's house. Everyone else was there, and I wasn't. I was mad at him for weeks. I'm still mad at him today, but I did not go to that. And I know how you feel right now for just not going to the movie. The kid runs away and slams the door. Okay. So like, what was the difference in the reaction? The same result is there, right? The child's not going to the movie, but disconnection between the adult and the child. I don't care how you feel. It doesn't matter. You're not going versus like, gosh, that's really awful. I know how you feel. We're still not going to the movie. The parent doesn't need to get mad at them. The child can do all the emotions and the feelings and slam the door, but the parent can just say, this is our decision, not in line with our family values, whatever it is. So you can like translate that to anything from a younger child to an older child, holding that limit in place, but doing it kindly, firmly, acknowledging, yeah, I know it's not great for you, but this is what we're going to have to do. Okay, so which approach actually achieves the goals that we have for our children? With behaviorism, we tend to use shame, yelling at, taking something away, just these punishment approaches, right? You're grounded, you got a timeout, you compare to someone else, you isolate them, you lecture. But what pathway does this actually push our child to when we use these? They tend to be more pushed to the red pathway, blue pathway, the state that humans cannot learn new things in. They cannot be challenged because they are in this like survival mode where they are just upset. They need to get back to the green pathway to be able to do that. So if you really want your kids to grow up to be those things that we talked about, is this really going to get there? Is it really going to get there? I just have to say too, parents will spend time probably in all those different parenting styles. It's not like you should only do positive discipline. Like that's unrealistic. Like we are in all the pathways all the time. So even myself, I know I tend to become more neglectful or permissive when I am really tired. Like my kids are like, Mom, we want a bowl of ice cream. I'm just like, fine, go get your ice cream. Like just get away from me. Like I don't care. Boundary was not kept, right? But you know what? That's okay. I was not able to deal with it at the moment. They got an extra bowl of ice cream, whatever, So it's like, this is what happens in life. Parents all day long are going like this, just like kids are. And we are not always going to be a positive discipline approach. That's just unrealistic. So I just want you to know, I'm not saying like everyone should just do positive disciplines. Like no one can do that all day long. It's nice to have a goal of a certain way, but it shouldn't be expected that you should do it all the time. So like be kind to yourself too. Like we are all humans and We have emotions too, right? Behaviorism, is this actually getting what we want when we use rewards? If you do this, then you'll get that. It's like dangling that carrot for them. You might use like sticker charts or reward charts, or this is a big one that we don't realize we do that can be very hurtful, is only rewarding our child with our affection when they're doing what we want them to do. Like, you know what? You are acting crazy right now. No, you can't get a hug. You can't sit by me. Go away. Like we don't realize sometimes a reward is our affection only when they're doing what we want them to do. We need to be able to show our affection to our children at any it's like this is called unconditional parenting. Like whether you're bad or good, I'm going to love you and I'm going to be there for you. Like this is annoying, but it's not your behavior that determines my love for you. It is you that I love and some behaviors that I find crazy, but I will always accept you. So that's an important message we want to send to our children. But when we use these rewards, what we're telling them is, oh, I don't trust you to do this on your own. I need to give you some external incentive for you to do that. Or this thing that I want you to do on your own, it's not worth it. So that's why I have to add this like nice thing with it. This is interesting that I read about. So if you do offer a reward to your child and they end up not getting it, like, well, you didn't clean your room every day this week, so sorry, you don't get to go to that movie with your friends. The brain and body perceives this as a punishment. So even if you think you're like, oh, I'm not punishing them, it's like that is how the body is perceiving it. And there's a lot of research that shows that interest and internal motivation goes way down or is totally lost if there's some reward attached to it. So that's interesting. Also, our brains are prediction machines, right? So like if every time you want your child to do something, you use this reward method, you're just like training them to expect something every time you ask something from them. So if you're like, oh, can you clear your dishes to the sink after dinner? Like, well, what are you going to give me? You know, it's like, well, what am I going to give you? I'm not going to give you anything. It's like, but every other time I do something, you give me something. So why won't you give it to me now? You know, it's like we are trading them to expect some special thing when it's just a normal thing, like moving your dish to the sink. So think about that too. Like, again, all parents will use these methods, but if you really want them to be more effective, the less you do it, the more effective it's going to be. That's just a little tip. These also always seem to very much work short term. Like if you notice, like you do the sticker chart or the something, it's like, oh, the first few days, this is going great. And then all of a sudden it's like, they don't care about it. Or like, well, I'll give you 2 stickers instead of 1. Or, you know, you have to like up the ante to make it feel a little more like effective. And that's just, it's not really a good long-term solution. So this guy, Alfie Kohn, has written a lot of great books on this topic. Punished by Rewards was really fascinating. It has a lot of information about extensive research that's been done on rewards, punishment, and like that idea of internal motivation and incentive going way down. Like he even does stuff like in the workplace, like lots of times when bonuses are attached to things, for example, like performance goes down or like people don't do it. Like it's, anyways, you just have to read the book. It's really good and interesting. He also wrote a book called Unconditional Parenting, which is again that idea of like, you don't have to do what I ask you for me to love you. Like this is the message we want to send our kids. Like I am going to unconditionally love you. I'm not going to try to control your behaviors. I'm going to work with you in this journey of parenting instead of just me trying to control you. So that is a really beautiful one too, if you want some inspiration. Okay, so with behaviorism, does this actually achieve these things we want for our kids? We want them to be happy, grow up, have meaningful relationships. Like even if a behavior can be controlled, what is the inner state of the child? What's the relationship between the adult and the child and the long-term goals? We have to model to them what we want them to do. If they see us yelling at them or punishing them or being rude to them when they're doing something that's not appropriate, they might expect that from a future partner or something like, oh, this is just the way it is. You know, if you want them to be confident and stand up for themselves, like if your child is trying to stand up for themselves and negotiate with you and you just shut them down every single time, like I'm the adult, I have the final answer, do not question me. Is that going to help them feel confident to stand up for themselves with other people that they meet in life? Just something to ask, just to think about, like what will actually get them to that point. Okay, so from the positive discipline approach, will positive discipline help us to achieve these goals we have for our children? Well, I love the part about emotionally responsive. Like we can still observe these behaviors of our children. We can kind of just observe them non-judgmentally, acknowledge their feelings and emotions about things. We now know that we have this really important role of co-regulating, if that's possible, to help that nervous system get back to the green pathway. And we can even help adding some deposits to their body budget, because this green pathway is the one where children are actually receptive to learning. They're feeling safe. They are ready to learn and do and grow and challenge. Discipline too, we use our limits, right? We still don't let them do those things that they're not supposed to. And we can help them along. Scaffolding. I was just talking with a parent at the break about how she helped her child learn how to clean up a space because she couldn't yet do it on her own. And she would work with her to do it for a whole year before now she can mostly do it on her own. But she had to do that scaffolding. Like that was a teaching moment. It wasn't just punishing her to do it on her own. She helped her along to get her to that point. And it's tailoring that response to that specific individual because everyone is very different. So this is just a side by side again, like what are we giving our brain and our body reps of behaviors leading to moving to the red pathway and the blue pathway and shutdown and fight and flight and disconnection and feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not trustworthy, I don't have a lot of control in this, my feelings and emotions don't matter? Or do we want to try to give our children's bodies and brains these reps of, oh, someone's helping me move from the state of fight or flight or immobilization back to the green pathway. I'm learning how to move from this state to the green pathway with the help of someone else. I actually have some say in what happens to me. We can negotiate a little bit. We can problem solve together, and my parents listening to me and understanding. Making mistakes would feel more like, oh, I make mistakes, but that's not the end of the world. I'm still learning, and we can figure out a good solution to this. My feelings and my emotions matter. I'm going to listen to what my body is telling me because they are being acknowledged and accepted. And connection with the adult and cues of safety, just building relationship is so important. So important. And I just want to acknowledge, like, again, all parents are going to do all these forms of parenting, but this is particularly hard to do because there's so much thinking involved. It's like in the moment, like, what do I say to my child to actually help them calm down? Or what should I do to help solve this problem? Or, you know, it's just so much thinking and thought and acknowledging feelings. Like all day long, I hear myself with my children, like within the first like 10 minutes of waking up, just like, oh yeah, you stubbed your toe, ouch, or oh you're hungry, you have to go to the bathroom, yeah, let's get to the bathroom. It's like this like constant stream of acknowledging, and it is exhausting, you know, it is exhausting. So I just want to recognize that this is not easy to do and it's hard to do. So give yourself some compassion when it's not working out the way that you would like it